Your original hometown dealer, Saida, Trudeau Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram.
Americans for Tax Reform was organized by President Reagan. Then he asked me to run it back in 1985 to enact what became the Tax Reform Act of 1986. Our goal was to bring rates down, broaden the base, make the tax code fairer and more pro-growth and less expensive. And we also run the No Tax Increase Pledge, which is the pledge that candidates signed. President Reagan signed it. 95% of Republicans in Congress have signed the pledge. It's a written commitment to oppose tax hikes. And the reason we ask for a written commitment is politicians who verbally say they won't raise taxes sometimes do. And so I'm here in Nevada because I'm supporting Dennis Hoff, who has signed the pledge and repeatedly made the commitment in writing not to raise taxes. And he's running against Mr. Oscarson, who promised in words, verbally, never to raise taxes, but he lied to get into office. So I think it's important for politicians to hear, you can't lie your way into office. You've got to tell people whether you want to raise their taxes or not, and if you don't keep your word, you ought to resign. The Taxpayer Protection Pledge is a written commitment where somebody puts in writing, simple question, I promise to the voters of Nevada and to the people of the United States, I will vote against and oppose any net tax increase, any tax hike. And James Oscarson said that verbally, but he broke that pledge a couple years ago and signed a very significant tax hike. And Dennis Hoff, and I'm here in Nevada because I want to see Dennis Hoff defeat the tax hiker, the guy who lied his way into office. Dennis Hoff has signed the pledge publicly and made it clear he will not break that promise. Oscarson raised taxes even after promising people in Nevada that he wouldn't. At the national level, 90+% of Republicans have signed the pledge for about 20, 30 years now. So at the national level, if you vote for a Republican, you can walk into the polls dead drunk, and if you vote for the Republican, he or she won't raise your taxes. Everybody knows that. The two parties are very different. At the state level, however, there are still some Republicans who will vote for a tax hike. And that's why the pledge is very important in Nevada and all 50 states, so that governor candidates, state legislative candidates put in writing, I will not raise your taxes. I think everybody who looks in the mirror and sees an American, everybody who works for a living, everybody who wants to run his or her own life should be a Republican. And so I am delighted and have always worked with all groups, ethnic groups, all religious groups, and said, look, we want you to vote for the Republican candidate. He won't raise your taxes. He won't push you around. He or she won't tell you what to do. If you want to be left alone to run your life as you want it, you ought to be voting for the Republican who will cut your taxes, keep spending low, and leave you alone. The most important thing a politician can do is let you be free to be a good American.